My name is Antonina Avitabile, and I entered the Missionary Sisters August 14th, 1966.
And it sounds to me a little bit like you've got a New York accent.
I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
So where did you first meet the sisters, and what was the deciding factor you think that made you want to be a sister?
Well, elementary school, I went to Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary in my parish, and the sisters taught there. So I had mostly missionary sisters my 8 years of schooling. So I got to know the sisters at that time. And what I loved about them was they were happy. They were happy. We didn't get beat up. Maybe the older kids, if they were bad, but it was a good relationship. We were 60 or more in every class. And we were taught, we learned, we graduated, we went to high school. And it was a very good education. And I found out years later, one of our former sisters said that was her best teaching experience because we wanted to learn. At the time, I didn't know we were all from immigrant families. And, when we went to school, we were told, you listen to the teacher, you learn, you come home. And if you went home and said, I got punished today, you got it worse at home. So you were very good in school. You didn't have to tell your parents you did anything, only if the teacher did. But we had a very good education. I got to know the sisters in elementary school. And then I went to Mother Cabrini High School, where I met more sisters, except for my English teacher, freshman year, was my 8th grade teacher at Sacred Hearts, Sister Marianne Hawes, who passed away last year. So I had a good relationship with the sisters, and I felt I wanted to do what they were doing. They were happy. They were teaching us that I just felt that's where I needed to be.
Now, so the teaching attracted you, but tell us some of the things that you got to do during your time.
Well, I did get to teach. I taught 2nd grade and I taught 4th grade and 5th grade. But after a number of years, I said, I love the children, but I don't like the teaching part. So being in a community that had multi-services, I asked if I could work at the hospital. So in 1975, I went to work at Cabrini Medical Center in the emergency room clinic registration. And I learned a lot. We registered patients that came into the emergency room and people who were going to the clinic for the first time. So, and I worked with, different kinds of people, people from different backgrounds. And I would go into the lobby and there'd be people from all over the world. And I said, this is like the United Nations. I grew up in an area that was predominantly Italian American. I very rarely, was with other people. In high school, yes, but here it was many more. So I got to learn a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures.
And did you get to do any other kinds of jobs?
Well,
were you missioned in other places?
In the hospital, but then I was working in the dental department. I ran the admitting office. So I did that there. Then I went to Australia where I ran the hospital. I had been going to CW Post, Long Island University for a master's in healthcare. So I was in Australia for 3 years. And in between that, I was at Cabrini University, Cabrini College, and I also taught at St. Donato's School. So at the university, I took Sister Catherine's place in the registrar's office. Then I worked in admitting. I was the first office manager. I worked in the business office. I helped with accounts payable. So I did a lot of different things. And when I was there, I became interested in accounting. And from there, I went to Widener and I got a master's in accounting. I did not become a CPA, but you can use accounting in many different areas. So then I went back to Cabrini Medical Center and I worked in financial reporting. And then that hospital closed. I went to Chicago for a sabbatical, and I came back and I went to Mother Cabrini High School and took over the CFO position there. And then the school closed, and a few of us stayed to do transcripts and educational verification and finish quite a number of things. So the only things left now are the transcripts and the employee records. And then I volunteered at Cabrini Immigrant Services downtown when they were downtown, helping with different things, answering the phone, filing, removing files that could be shredded. And then last year they asked if I would help with other things. So I now do their bookkeeping. I do their QuickBooks. So I'm up there 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 days a week. And in 2018, I was asked to be a counselor for the provincial. We had a new team. We were a new province. The sisters from Central America and our province united. So Sister Diane became provincial, and Sister Sochi and Maria Elena and myself were the counselors. And I'm also the treasurer for the province, which now we have a new council will be coming in. We do not know who they are yet, but I'm still going to be the treasurer. So I still have that responsibility and the responsibility for immigrant services. So between, I'm busy. And then sometimes, sisters may need some kind of help with their bookkeeping, so I do that too.
So let's talk a minute about the charism. Now you had a Cabrini education.
I did.
But can you talk about the difference of your understanding of the charism when you first entered and how you see it now?
When I first entered, what I knew was that Mother Cabrini was sent to this country by Leo XIII to work with the Italian immigrants. So what did she do when she came here? She came to my neighborhood in Brooklyn, not necessarily first, but she came there. And she started teaching, the sisters, teaching the young girls, the women, like handwork so that they could do something to work and they had a trade. They had religion classes. Then they started a school in the parish. And then later on, she had a dream with the Blessed Mother working in the hospital. And what are you doing there? And she said, well, you don't want the sisters to work in a hospital, so I'm doing it. So Mother Cabrini started hospitals. Mother Cabrini would go to Denver, Colorado, and go down to the coal mines and visit the immigrants and try to help them. She did the same thing in Louisiana. So, I got to know, well, she was here to help the Italian immigrants, help translate for them, help them get educated, help them keep their faith. So I figured, we didn't call it charism then, but this is what we are here for, to teach, to heal, to help. So in some way we had social work. We had the schools, boarding school for orphans. So we had a lot of places like that where we took in children who didn't have parents, or one parent was sick and the other one had to work. So the child was with the, with the sisters. So we knew that was what the meaning was. And so when I was teaching, I knew that there were other fields I could go into. That if, I didn't want the students to have a mediocre teacher. I don't know if I was mediocre, but that's how I felt. So I went into the hospital and I loved it. I learned a lot of different things just by osmosis, listening to the nurses speak, listening to the friends that I made, how we filled out papers, the information we needed to know. So that was an eye-opener. No one in my family worked in hospitals. So this was, a new experience, but also a good experience.
Wow. So another question I'd like to ask you about You live in community. You've lived in community. What's that experience been like for you?
Well, it's been good, sometimes not so good, sometimes terrible, I'll be honest. Um, After we made profession and we went to live in Philadelphia, we were sent there and we were going to go to college. Now, the sisters before us, they went to teach, and while they were teaching, they went to college. So, teaching all day long, getting all their work done for the school, and maybe in the evening and on the weekends, they went to college. And it would take 4 years was nothing, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So here we come fresh out of the novitiate, and we're going to college. And maybe one day a week, we would do something at the school. They were not happy. Now, the people that made those decisions were not there, but we were. So it was not always pleasant. But after a number of years, you get over it. And everybody's, fine, and they got to finish. And, but it took us a number of years to realize that it really wasn't us. It was the situation that they were in. They were lovely people, excellent teachers, good women, but they were frustrated, teaching all day and doing your other activities you had to do in the house and going to school. So you could imagine how difficult that was for them.
And now do you live in community?
Now I live in a community with two. And we have 2 apartments because you couldn't make it into one. We were asked to switch with another group. So we're together for prayers, for dinner, recreation, TV. But the other sister also goes to immigrant services. So when I go, we go together by car and come back. So it's nice. I'm not looking over her shoulder and she's not looking over my shoulder. So that's different because when you're living in the same house, you tend to do that. Not on purpose, but it happens. So we're having this lovely experience, at least for now, where we're at peace with each other, But in community, it's been good, depending, where you are, who you're with, what you're feeling like, how open you could be to talk about different things and, get things smoothed over. But more or less, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's like a family. I don't have to tell you,
So if you think about the various experiences you've had, is there something that stands out in your mind that was really life-changing or touched your heart?
Well, I think going to Australia. First of all, if I were a laywoman, I don't know if I would have had some of the responsibilities that I have now. But being in the community, it's different. I have finished my degree, and the sister who had been the administrator had a stroke, and they brought her back here. And Sister Regina Casey, who asked me to go. And do they have Colgate toothpaste? If they don't, I can't go. They have Colgate toothpaste. So anyway, I went and I was the administrator. So learning the hospital, and they were in the middle of a building project. So that was all a new country. They had kangaroos, koalas, a lot of different things, and the difference in the seasons. Our winter is their summer. So Christmas, we lit up the Christmas tree. The only time we had the lights on at night was Christmas Eve because we had gone to midnight mass. Otherwise, it was too light, and too light out and too light, in the house. But so that was a nice difference. I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. I learned that I liked the 4 seasons. I was used to it. But another thing, this might sound a little unusual. In Australia, at least at that time, if someone passed away, or when someone passed away, they did not have a wake. You knew somebody died, and you went to their church service. You never saw the person dead. And, at that time back home, we were saying, oh, wakes are terrible. I know in Philly there were 3 days. In New York there were 3 days, and they're since shorter. But you got to see the person, deceased. So during that time, my youngest brother died and I had to come back home. And I said, I can't imagine not seeing him deceased after knowing him alive. Because I worked with a number of people that that died during the night. They may have had conditions, but they were not like in the hospital and sick in the hospital. So to hear so-and-so didn't get to work and this person was always early, she worked in payroll, not there, and the staff got concerned. So her boss and his boss went to her place and they talked to the landlord. They could see through the window she was on the floor. She had died, probably getting out of bed during that very bad asthmatic, very bad. Never got to see her dead. And that made an impact on me. I said, we could say that back home, about wakes, but not having the experience of not having one, what it meant. So there's a lot of different things. What I learned about Australians, they love to have a good time. On Saturday, now I'm talking about the 1980s, you couldn't shop on a Saturday afternoon and stores were not open on Sunday. Everybody went to the Aussie Rules football game. Every town had their own stadium. And you didn't go driving near any of them if you weren't going to any game. They were there. They knew when to have a good time and they knew when to work. So they had, at least at that time, a very nice lifestyle. They had their breaks. They had their lunch. They had their afternoon break. When it was time to go home, they went home. And they were very happy employees.
So I think you've talked a little bit about this, but if you wanted to describe your current ministry, can you tell us about that?
Well, my current ministry is Immigrant Services, the provincial office, and helping different people, different communities with their bookkeeping. I'm going to have another responsibility for a few months. Sister Arlene is having knee replacement, so she asked me to visit the sisters in Dobbs Ferry, and if anyone goes to the hospital, to follow them. So I'll be busy doing that the next few months.
So in this life, as a bearer of the love of Christ,
Right.
What's been most personally fulfilling to you?
Just being with people, helping, talking to them, praying for them. And what I liked about Immigrant Services is I can't do the interviewing that they do. A lot of their clients speak Spanish. But as I was saying, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done. I don't mind putting things in alphabetical order. I don't mind, all right, take out this file, it's too old, we can get rid of it. They could do the important work. Not that filing isn't important, because you need to find what you're looking for, but they could do the legal work, I could do the other work. I love to do bookkeeping. So I could do that. I have a little laptop there that I do that work, and we keep everything in order. And we work with our CFO who wraps everything up at the end of the month. And I guess seeing a finished product and seeing that I'm helping in some way. That's what I like.
Understandable. So if you look back on this wonderful life,
yes,
and you met someone who was considering such a life, what would you say to them?
Well, one thing I would say to them, depending on who they are, their age, if they're in high school, I would encourage them to go to college and to work 1 or 2 years. But meanwhile, stay in touch with whoever is responsible for vocation, so they have follow-up. But I think it's very important to get, I entered after high school, so I'm talking, Monday morning quarterback. It's important to get to know yourself and know that you can, how would you say it, be yourself, and you know how to lead your own life. And then you know that you're going into, let's say, a different type of life, but you should still be able to know how to do a checkbook, how to take care of yourself. I think that's very important. But then have a passion for something that you want to do in religious life, teaching, social work, even, spiritual direction, whatever. That's important. Like, feed yourself before you go in, so you know what you could do, what you want to do. Date. See if that's for you. Know all of that before you make your final decision.
That's you have a very logical description. That's good.
I'm very logical.
I see that. So you've probably answered this, but one or two sentences. What does it mean to be an MSC, to be a missionary sister?
Okay, to be a missionary sister, I'm not saying we're copycats of Mother Cabrini, but we're following in her footsteps. And we don't have to do the same thing that was done in 1880, 1890, because things change. So as things change, we can also change. If something isn't working, we don't have any more we are not in any more elementary schools. I'll only talk about the United States. We do have the college, we have one high school. Okay, so we're not teaching, so you don't sit home, but there's other things that we can do. If we didn't have the situation with the immigrants, we got into it and we're working there. And that is wonderful. That's something Mother would do. Because before I would say, but what kind of immigration work are we doing? Like I said, when I was little, I didn't know I was in an immigrant family. I know that now. But to see that what we can do when we have clients come, now they come up to 190th Street, and to see what's done. The day one of the busload of people came up to us, last year, the staff was having a meeting. So I told the director, I says, this family came in, blah, blah, blah. After the meeting, they all went out. What could we do for you? Well, some ordered pizza, ordered something for them to drink, and the different social workers came out. How could we help you? How could we help you? They just stopped what they were doing, and then all of a sudden we got all this clothes in. We found out they needed underwear, socks. A lot of these young men would come in. They said, well, we wash our clothes, but the next day they're not all dry. How many do you have? One. So we learned, we got socks and clothes and undershirts, bras, you name it, we got it, from babies to adults. Jackets, sometimes they come in and that week they're gone. So, as times go on, we rolled with the punches. What do we need to do? And that's what we're doing. Even as old as we're getting, like a lot of my friends are retired 20 years, but I can do certain things and I'm happy to do what I could do. I'm not in an office 9 to 5. My schedules could vary depending on what I need to do, but I'm happy to do what I can. I feel like I'm contributing. There's an esprit de corps that I feel. It's like we are doing this. We as a group are together, and this is what we're doing, and we're proud. We think Mother Cabrini would be proud. God would be proud. Our friends and families and people who don't even know us are proud that we have given up, family life, et cetera, and we're here to service. And with that comes our prayer life. So that, I think, is very important. But the esprit de corps is important because we learn from each other. What I've enjoyed is meeting sisters from different countries. Sister Yolanda's from Nicaragua. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So I love hearing about how she grew up, their sense of humor, how under difficulty they could come out with really funny things. And I said, I love it. She said, that's how we, live with bad situations. We can make jokes out of it. I came because I liked the esprit du corps. I liked what the sisters were doing, and I feel fulfilled. Like I feel like I have been, trying and been doing what I set out to do, and it's all been a good thing, a good life. All of us give 100% or more to what we're asked to do. And we do it, and we do it with a good spirit. And I think that's not just for me, but for the community, exemplary. And a lot of sisters have done things they never wanted to do, but once they did it, they liked it. Or even if they didn't like it, they still did it the best that they could do. And that's, we're good women.